I have to also lean on the facts of the experiences that God has brought me in my life up to this point to know that no matter what happens, He is always going to be there to help me. And it doesn't matter what the situation is, He is always going to provide the way.
Be able to feel free in order to rid your body of something like stage 4 cancer.
And if there's one thing Lana knows, it's how to persevere, how to be, um, how to see her way through whatever besets her. That's an old fashioned word, besets. Maybe you've heard that word before. And tonight she's going to talk about that perseverance and how she weathered some storms herself through her faith and her perseverance. And it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Lana Wynn Scroggins. And she'll go by any name, whatever you call her. She's there and you can depend on her.
I'll just tell you a little story. And it starts with I lived with a family and I was a nanny. And I'd been a nanny for that family for about 4 years. And I just knew that it was time. I just turned 51 years old. And I've lived with families all my life, helping take care of many children and along the way. And just, um, I left home at 18 and I never was not living with someone, family, school, at some point. And so I never had lived on my own. And this family was wanting to move to North Carolina, and I just felt like it was time for them to move on, and it was time for me to be my own person and to be on my own for the first time in my life. And so when I did that, when I lived with them and was their nanny, I didn't get um, I didn't get paid. And so, but they always provided everything I needed if I needed something. So when I left them that day, actually it was a quite an interesting experience, but um, I was only able to take a few things at that point and go to a friend's house. I was later able to get all my stuff, but I had never left any place with just a little suitcase, and so ever in my life. And so anyway, I um, went to a friend's house, and the next day I went to our pastors, and my pastor at my church, and I told him my story and how I was wanting to um, be on my own for the first time, and I had less than $100, and I was trying to figure out how I was going to do that because this was quite of a daunting task because I I had never been on my own and I didn't have anything and I hadn't prepared. And so anyway, I had cooked up this idea that I could go home to my mom's house. She had a camper out back behind the barn and I was gonna see if she'd give me that camper and I could bring it back down to Port St. Joe where I lived at and I could rent me a little lot and I could create a life. And so he thought, well, I don't know about that, but I'll give you $400, and that maybe can get you home, and then you can see if you can make that happen. And so I did. I said thank you, and so I left, and I went home, and I told my mom my story, and she said yes, I will give you the camper. And so we pulled the camper out to the front of the field, and we lived on a farm, and it was like 20 acres, and So my brother and his friend came over to help hook up the lights and stuff to my truck. And he said, "Well, it's just not going to work." And I said, "Not going to work? What are you talking about? It has to work." And he said, "Well, that camper's been sitting out there behind that barn for all this time, and it it probably the mice probably have eaten into the wires and stuff. It's just not going to work. So me and Tony are going home." And I said, "Are you kidding?" And so anyway, they left. My mom went to town. Here I was out in the middle of this huge field, this hay field, and I just threw my hands up in the air. I started screaming. I started yelling. People couldn't hear me for miles because we lived out in the middle of nowhere. And so no one was going to hear me, and I was just screaming and yelling. I don't know why I thought God would hear me more if I screamed and yelled, but pitched a fit, but I did. And I pitched this big, huge fit. Now, maybe it was for my own benefit so that I felt better after it was over. I don't know. But anyway, after it was over, I said, "Oh, well." So I walked in the house. About 10 minutes later, my brother calls and says, "Okay, Tony and I think we figured it out." And I said, "We're coming back over." And I said, "Oh, great." So they came back over. They figured it out. They hooked up what they needed to hook up from the camper to my truck so that I would have brakes. Because you can't go down out of the mountains without brakes. And then the lights and all. I needed everything. So they got it all hooked up. It was all working. And then my brother turned to me and he goes, "Now, have you ever pulled a camper? Have you ever pulled a trailer?" And I said, "Well, no, I've never done that." He goes, "Oh my goodness. Okay, you just got to come over to the house now, and I got to give you lessons now." And I said, "Oh, okay." So I went over to his house. He hooked up his trailer to his truck, and he got me in there. And he started, "Okay, now, uh, you know, here's how you do it." So I started driving around, and he was giving me lessons because I had to drive this camper out down these mountains. And when you drive down these mountains, we're talking mountains. And when you go out into if you were to go off, there's no guardrails. And if you went off it's not going off into a ditch, it's going off into a canyon. And so people might not find you for ages if you didn't even know you were going that way. And so, but anyway, I left the next day. My mom gave me her blessing. She gave me a few dollars and said, "I hope you don't need any more, but this maybe will get you by until, you can get a job and stuff." So I said, "Okay." So anyway, I started out, I pulled that camper down out of those mountains. It was like a 3 hour trip, and I was driving, as nervous as I probably could be. But I got down, I got to Conway, and I called everybody and I said, "I made it. I made it through the mountains." And so then I drove on and I got to Birmingham, and when I got to Birmingham, it was pouring down rain, but I had heard that you could park in and spend the night in a Walmart parking lot. So I made my way and I saw a Walmart up the road. So I pulled into that Walmart parking lot, and for the first time in my life, I slept in my own home. I went to Walmart and got a flashlight because I didn't have any light, and I got some food and came back, and I spent the first night of my very own life in my camper, and I was so thrilled and so excited because here I was doing something on my own for my very first time. Then the next day, I got up and I went to Port St. Joe. I pulled in. The people who I work for, Woods Fisheries, had told me I could park my camper at the plant until I could figure out where I was going to put it. And then I was just going to stay with them until we could find me a place to put my camper. So here I am. I'm pulling into Fort St. Joe. I have a camper, but I don't have a job. I have a very little bit amount of money, and I don't have a place to put the camper. And, I don't even know why I even thought this whole idea would work. I mean, if you look back on it, you go, why did I think that idea would work? Anyway, so my friends called me and said, "Hey, we're down at the soccer field. Come on." And I had a lot of friends. And so I went down to soccer field, and while I was down there with some friends that I had a play that I had created a play group with because I was the nanny to the little boy. And so anyway, uh I was sitting there with them, and one of my other friends came up, and she said, "Hey, we're letting our PE teacher at Faith Christian School go, and would you like to be our PE teacher at Faith Christian School?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'd love it. I mean," and they go, "Can you start tomorrow?" And I said, "Oh, absolutely. And you don't even know that I have a bachelor's degree in physical education. I could be a PE teacher." And she go, "Oh, that's even better. You get to make extra because you have a degree." And so I go, "Okay, great." And so then the next day, when I walked into the school, the pastor of the school came up to me and he said, "Well, we have someone that goes to our church, and they have a lot just down the street for a very reasonable price, and they'd like to offer you that lot for your camper, so you could park your camper." And so I said, "Glory, hallelujah! I got a place for my camper." And so now here all of a sudden I have a camper, I have a job, and I have a place to put my camper, and I've started a whole new life. And I actually got to wondering why and how God, could bring me through this particular season and struggle of my life. And little did I know that this was in 2006. And little did I know that in 2018, in October 2018, that a similar occurrence would pass my way again. And it was like he was preparing me for this is getting ready to happen to you again many years in the future. And now you're preparing for it because you did it now. When it comes to you in the future that you don't know about, which when it did, I lost my place to live and during the hurricane. I had to get another camper, which of course I live in now and have lived in for 5 years. And my mother was instrumental in helping me get this one many years ago. But I found out that when I was going through that situation, it was a lot easier to go through that situation because I had been through it earlier, and I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that God was going to take care of me. So, in any situation that I come through or that I have presented to me, which now I have stage 4 breast cancer and have chemo treatments every 3 weeks, and I have to also lean on the facts of the experiences that God has brought me in my life up to this point to know that no matter what happens, He is always going to be there to help me. And it doesn't matter what the situation is, He is always going to provide the way. And I can bank on that. I can trust that because I've experienced it in many different ways. And yeah, sure, sometimes I'm just as human as everybody else and struggle with the little doubts here and there, but they're like very minimal, momentary little doubts that can come our way. And so I just want to give everyone hope and assurance that if you just persevere, if you just stick with it, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you just keep working towards your goal, towards what you need to do, what's happening in your life, God will make a way to help you, and He will walk with you all along the way, and guide you as you walk. And I can testimony to that, and that is Ellen, has helped me in many, many ways throughout the years to be an actual person that actually can sit here tonight and actually talk to you on this Zoom because many years ago, this would not even have been something that would even be possible, much less happen. I mean, just so I say thank you, Ellen, for all your help, and I just um thank God for everything that He's done and is doing in my life, and I just have to take it, you know, every day is a gift, and every day is how that we can see one more time that God in His infinite mercy will make His face shine down upon us and just be gracious to us.
Since then, how many degrees or certifications have you completed, Lana?
Well, shortly after that experience in 2006, when I was going to go on my own, and I was 51 years old, and I thought, well, what am I going to do when I get to be 65? Because I haven't prepared very well for the later years in life. And so I went back to school in 2008, and from 2008 till a few years ago, I got a bachelor's in IT, then I got my master's in IT, and then I got my PhD in IT.
So you completed two bachelor's degrees, a
Yes.
master's degree, and your PhD. And what was your PhD in?
It was in information technology with a specialization in education, and it actually took me 7 years to actually get that one.
I was coming up to that because it was kind of like the experience of going after that camper and getting there and being told, one, it won't work. Two, you don't even know how to pull a camper. Three, there's just no way you're going to get that thing home. And attacking your PhD was sort of like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was, and I will have to say that I will have to say there's many things that I have done in life that there's just no rhyme or reason. I just got an idea, and I decided to do it, and I just think, I guess through the grit and determination. I mean, just think about it. Back when I was in high school, and I saw this basketball team in a yearbook, and I I didn't we didn't even have basketball at the school I went to. I was I my dad put up a pole out in the field, and I practiced basketball for hours and hours and hours and hours for years and years and years because I wanted to play on that basketball team, which was not really probably that realistic, but it was a goal I had, and I was a walk-on. The coach actually let me be on the team, let me wear the uniform, and we were 50 points ahead one time, and she let me play for like 2 minutes because just because of my sheer determination. She was just so in awe of my determination that she just had to let me do it. I mean, she just and I
How
was
tall
like,
were you? How
huh?
tall were you? How tall were
Oh,
you?
yeah, and that was another thing. She had a nationally ranked team, and she had a person on her team for years that was 7 foot tall, and she didn't like to have anybody on her team that was under 6 feet tall, and I was 5 feet, and only that year because she was getting a person on the team that was like 5'7" or something, and they were paying, and she got a scholarship. Then her her minimum of 6 foot kind of went out the window, but she kind of said, "I don't care how tall you are, your grit and determination is more than I've seen, any of people on my team. I just want you sitting on my bench for your grit and determination." So,
Okay. So that really is the message tonight to all of us, that pure grit and determination plus the knowledge that there is a God big enough to help you get where you want to go has put you where you are today.
Yes, it has. And it is, and it continues on a daily basis to meet me where I just have to trust God for every day and every minute and everything that I do because I've gone through quite a few things in the last 8 years in this battle with cancer. I've been doing this and have gone through many things through this time and many different kinds of treatments, and it's just, one story after another. And, um, you know, it's, we're going to keep beating it. I mean, I believe when I get my test results that I will get on Thursday that he'll say, well, those cancer cells are still asleep, so we'll just keep on doing what we're doing. And that's what we kind of did where they wake up and, um, we have a little hiccup to have to deal with. So I have some radiation for, 4 or 5 times or 10 times or, I get my lung drained for fluid or, I mean, it's just one, when the cells wake up, then they cause some, disturbance. They cause some aggravation. And then we find some kind of treatment and we put them back to sleep. And so, we can keep them asleep for a couple years at a time and then they wake up and then we deal with them. And so we're still, I believe they're asleep right now though, because I've just felt really good the last 3 months. So, I think, um, even though I've had chemo every 3 weeks for the last, uh, you know, since summer, I just think right now that I think they're asleep.
Your story is so beautiful. I know you have the recipe of making it because the first thing you're an angel. The first thing I feel from you is an overwhelming sense of love. And that the love not just for other people, but the love of the human body. God gives some people that, and a lot of people don't get it, and they just don't. They just say, well, what is my time? And they don't fight. Your perseverance and persistence is so beautiful. And not everybody have that, Lana. So it's a gift. And you have this optimistic feeling about you. You're so optimistic. Some people just get a diagnosis and they don't even go to their treatments on time. They miss them. And I know because I'm a healer, and sometimes they even miss my treatments 3 in a row. And I'm thinking, stage 4 cancer, how could you miss 3 appointments? And
Hmm.
so you are a friend of God, and you also are a friend of yourself. That's how we become our best self. And Ellen is so beautiful, and she's your friend. So the two of you, that's how you become your best selves, by having other people understanding you and underneath you and motivating you and giving you all the tools that you need. And a lot of people don't have all of that entire recipe that I'm talking about. Being able to feel free, not so bound up. You need to be able to feel free in order to rid your body of something like stage 4 cancer. I mean, there's so many different things to put in the recipe to make you whole. And Lana, you have it. You have it. So, and I'm gonna keep you in my prayers all the time because you are an angel, Lana.
First of all, I'm sorry you have cancer. It's just something that happens. But
Yeah.
your faith in God, um, He hears your prayers, obviously, and He will put the right people in your path to help you with your needs. And I'm sure you will agree that people just help you, and you're like, wow, that happened
Yeah.
because I prayed about it. And it's unfortunate that you're going through this and you have overcome a lot of adversity as well. and just keep your faith in God. I mean, every single one of us that, you know, I guess believes in God, because you have to believe. A prayer is a simple conversation with Heavenly Father. So with that, it's, you know, God will always make a way. But we have to be humble enough to ask Him. And, you know, sometimes people are put in our life for a reason. And they're there for comfort. They're there for help. They're there for you for just even talk and give you probably a friendship that's important, you know. But you know, this group's here for you as well. So I just want you to know that.